My first guest and I will discuss the airborne objects being shot down, the 2020 election, the so-called January 6th insurrection, the Hunter Biden laptop story, the disappointing, at least for Republicans, 2022 midterms, and his prediction for 2024. Now, about the Hunter Biden laptop story. Former Obama CIA head James Clapper has now accused Politico of distorting the letter that he and 50 other intel vets signed about the Hunter Biden laptop story. Clapper said the letter did not assert that the laptop was part of a Russian disinformation operation, something that Politico wrote in its headline. Clapper told the Washington Post fact-checker, "All we were doing was raising a yellow flag that this could be Russian disinformation. Politico deliberately distorted what we said. It was clear in paragraph 5, end of quote." Really? About the laptop's alleged contents, the letter said, quote, "It has all the classic earmarks of a Russian disinformation operation," end of quote. And now Clapper is saying, we didn't say that. Well, here's what Clapper back then told CNN. Watch this.
Obama. So, Director, a bunch of questions from this. Let me just start with this. How much does the source matter, right? So you hear the story of this laptop. We don't know a lot. We do know that the way that this information is getting out is through Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani. How much does the source matter here?
Well, source matters a lot, and the timing matters a lot, I think. And to me, this is just classic textbook Soviet-Russian tradecraft at work. The Russians have analyzed the target. They understand that the president and his enablers crave dirt on Vice President Biden, whether it's real or contrived, it doesn't matter to them. And so all of a sudden, two and a half weeks before the election, this laptop appears somehow without, and emails on it without any metadata. It's all very curious. But so here you have a willing target, and the Russians, who are very sophisticated about how to exploit a willing target. And to me, that's what's at work here.
No, I wasn't saying it was Russian disinformation. And by the way, he has security clearance. We don't. That's what gave him and the other so-called 50 former intel officials such credibility. General Michael Flynn is a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General who was the U.S. National Security Advisor for the Trump administration. About General Flynn, conservative writer Matt Vespi wrote, and I'm quoting Matt Vespi, "Top FBI officials like disgraced top brass men Andrew McCabe and James Comey were out to get Flynn no matter what. They had no evidence to rope him into a federal investigation, let alone sit him down for an interview, of which the agents involved said they walked away feeling that Flynn did not lie to them. And yet Flynn had the screws put to him when Robert Mueller became special counsel, who took over the FBI's counterintelligence investigation into Russian collusion and forced the general into pleading guilty to a bogus lying to the FBI charge. A full pardon was issued on behalf of Flynn by President Trump in November. Please welcome General Michael Flynn." General, can we start with James Clapper's claim that he was not saying that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation? I was just giving you a warning, a heads up.
Yeah, so first of all, Larry, thank you so much for having me on, and to your audience. Jim Clapper, he served over 50 years, I think close to 55 years as an unelected bureaucrat, and he rose to the highest levels of the intelligence community. And, I actually feel very sorry. I worked for him a couple of times. I feel very sorry for him. I mean, he is a guy that knows he lied through his teeth. And now what he's trying to do is he's trying to recover from that lie. And what Jim Clapper sadly needs to do is he just needs to go away, and he needs to, quietly go away. He should not be on MSNBC or CNN or any of these media outlets talking about something that he really doesn't know about. This letter signed by 51 very, very senior CIA, intelligence and defense officials and diplomats, they basically signed a letter that was one big lie. And Jim Clapper he's the carrier of the message for all of them, and that's why they had him on recently to say this again. So, here's where we're at. No country, Larry, that lost its character has ever kept its liberty. None. If you have given up freedom and you have not fought for it, like Churchill used to say. Churchill made a great comment about the battle at Dunkirk, where the entire military for the British was at risk, and they were able to recover them. They then, in turn, they started to fight for their freedom. And that's what's going to have to happen in this country. We're going to have to fight for our freedom once again, because we are we're at, sort of at risk right now with this takeover by a small group of people that really want to jump from socialism right into communism, as some have already spoken about. So guys, like, I know you want to, there's a lot of things that we want to talk about. There's, from balloons to Ukraine to China, all these different things. But I want people to understand, I want your audience to understand, which is a great audience, that it's guys like you, Larry Elder, people like myself, who we will fight, as champions against those things in Washington, D.C. And it's the people that we want to have that are watching this. They don't have that platform at the national level or the international level. They have a platform, though, at the local level. And that's where I want people to get engaged. I want people to get up, get off the couches, quit being apathetic, quit being lazy, and get involved in their communities in this country. That's what we're going to have to do to win this country back. Because we have, sadly, people like Jim Clapper and others, Brennan, Comey, the whole litany of them, who are going to sit there and lie through their teeth to the American people and try to say that, well, we didn't really mean it. We didn't mean it right before the 2020 election. But now that we got caught, we're sorry that we got caught. So too bad, Jim. Time to retire and go away.
General, before we move on to other things, a couple other points about the laptop. The FBI had the laptop late 2019. They knew damn well it was not disinformation. Number two, if the laptop store owner does not make a copy of this, we probably never would have known about this story.
Exactly.
It would never have been confirmed. It never would have seen the light of day. Rudy Giuliani never would have gotten his hands on it. The FBI intended to bury this thing.
Now, John Paul McIsaac, who's the laptop computer store owner, and he's got a lawsuit. He's got a pretty damn good lawsuit in right now, and he's going to win it. It's going to be dragged through the courts, but not because of the judges. It's going to be because of the lawfare that he is facing. And of course, everybody, if you don't know, the Hunter team has countersued, but John Paul McIsaac has an exceptional lawsuit. I'm very familiar with it. In one of the organizations that I am part of, we got behind it and we're supporting it. And I'm going to tell you something. That lawsuit is a very good lawsuit, and it's going to drag out a lot of information. But what this really comes down to is what did our country know? What did the FBI know? And the FBI has known from the very beginning. This is undeniable, Larry, what was on this laptop. It's not the pornography. That's a pittance of what we're really concerned about. Right. It's really the egregious corruption where we talk about, on the laptop, Hunter talks about his father being involved in their business transactions, and their business transactions were with the Chinese Communist Party, particularly the head of intelligence. We're talking about the Burisma over in Ukraine, which we're now still dealing with, and we could potentially even be going to war in Ukraine with Hunter Biden's father, Uncle Joe, at the helm of our country right now. God help us. So these data points are critical to understanding what was on that laptop. That laptop is not about Hunter Biden's behavior in terms of what he does in his bedroom. It's what he did internationally to usurp this country. And his father, who is our current occupant of the White House, was fully aware. He was fully witting, and he was earning money from it, Larry. And that's what your audience needs to understand.
Give me your take, General, on the media blasting away at Trump for pushing, quote unquote, the big lie about 2016, and how the media refers to people like myself and others who believe that there are all sorts of shenanigans regarding the 2020 election, not least of which was the suppression of that Hunter Biden laptop story, the $400 million Mark Zuckerberg spent getting out the Democratic vote. You raise these kinds of things. You are an election denier. Yeah. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah. So, and I really appreciate your your intro to your show. What a wonderful intro. Not only brave, but also very, very accurate. People, I've been called every single name in the book, right? Every name. You name it, I've been called it. I've been on the front.
I bet, General. I bet you haven't been called the black face of white supremacy.
Well, that's when I saw that when you were called that, Larry, and I just cracked up. I said, man, these people they're struggling. But when we talk about this, the idea of being called an election denier. I don't deny that we have elections. I don't deny our elections. I'm not an election denier. What I deny is that our elections are free and fair, and the way that they're supposed to be run. The one sacrosanct, element within our Constitution, what makes us all equal, Larry, is inside of that voting booth. When I go to vote, if I'm the least of Americans, if I'm the poorest, I'm a homeless guy, but I'm still registered because I still want to vote, and I'm the wealthiest person. When we enter that voting precinct to vote, we are equal. We are equal in the eyes of the law. We're equal in the eyes of our Constitution, and we're equal in the eyes of God Almighty. And that's what makes this country so great. And our elections, I'm not denying our elections exist. They exist. What I'm denying is the fact that our elections, I do not believe for 1 second, Larry, that our elections are free and fair. We are not able to look underneath, we're not able to look underneath the carpet of many of these election systems that we have. I won't go into the names of everything, but I will tell you that when people fight this hard to keep us from understanding what is happening in our own damn election system, and we're paying for it, something is mightily wrong. And so I'm not denying elections. I am denying the fact that they are free and fair. And as you laid out, from Al Gore back in 2002, I believe, all the way to all of the Democrats, all the way through the 2016, and then of course through the Donald Trump administration, where they continued to say that he was a fraud. He was a fraud for a president. What I know is the American people have great common sense, and the American people get it. Now, what do we do about it? And I think that's the $64,000 question. And it's not just getting involved in your local community. I use the phrase local action has a national impact, or local action equals a national impact, meaning if you don't like your school board, go run for school board, or go participate in the school board, go run for county commissioner, go run for election commissioner at the county level. But I actually believe strongly that every single American now has to stand up, step up, and speak up, stand firm in the conviction of what our Constitution is all about, and get involved in our community, Larry. You know that. You know that from your own run for governor of California, where you received a ton of votes. And I was praying that maybe some miracle would occur. But I know the election system in California, and I'm not denying that elections don't occur in California. I'm just denying that the fact that the elections in California are fair. They are not.
Well, despite the U.S. blowing right through the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling in January, the leftist White House still refuses to reduce spending. While our national leadership has buried their heads in the sand when it comes to fiscal responsibility, it is time to pull yours out. Now would be a great time to diversify into gold with Birch Gold. In times of high uncertainty and instability, gold is king. It's dependable. Birch Gold makes it easy to convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in precious metals. Here's what you need to do. Visit LarryForGold.com to claim your free info kit on gold, and then talk to one of their precious metal specialists. Think about this. To dig our country out of this mountain of debt, every single taxpayer in America would have to write a check for $247,000, and it's only getting worse. Protect yourself with gold today by visiting LarryForGold.com. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers, and countless 5-star reviews, you can trust Birch Gold to protect your future. Visit LarryForGold.com today. That's LarryForGold.com right now. Let's talk about 2022, the midterms. Why, in your opinion, as far as Republicans are concerned, did we underperform?
Yeah, so great question. And all these people that talk about, I did this or I did that in terms of my batting average. Here's what we only really got in the House. We received 5. We're above the dividing line by only 5. And there's another big election on Tuesday with Bishop Leon Benjamin in Congressional District 4 in Virginia. This is a special election. Many people don't know about it. The people of Virginia, maybe the people of Congressional District 4 are aware of it, but Leon Benjamin is running because the person who ran in 2022 died 2 weeks later. And a majority of Americans don't even know that. So why did we not perform as well as we could have or should have in 2022? When I look at the whole landscape and I look at the key states from Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, many other states, and I was deeply involved in many of the various key swing states. I think what happened was we had a lot of people show up on election day, but where the states have laws that allow mail-in ballots, Larry, and allow ballot harvesting, we have to get smarter about this. And I'm not saying that the Republican Party or the conservative movement in this country has to cheat like the Democrats, because they cheat. And you can censor this if you want, but they cheat. But I will tell you that where the laws exist for mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting, we have to get inside of that. We have to understand that. And we have to be smart about how to operate and how to maneuver inside of that. It's like being on a battlefield it's being on terrain in war that you don't want to be on. I don't want to be on the terrain in Michigan, but I'm there. So what I have to do is I have to understand, or Pennsylvania for that matter, but I'm there. And I have to understand how to maneuver. If it's 30 days prior to the election and mail-in ballots are going out, the Republican Party better get smart about how to do that. If ballot harvesting exists, they better get smart about how to do that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, though, Larry, that even those were fair, because what I learned about in Nevada, or however you want to say it, in terms of mail-in ballots and what you're able to do with mail-in ballots in the state of Nevada, it's outrageous. So it's totally outrageous. I mean, it just doesn't pass the common sense test. At the end of the day, the American people have great common sense. But what they need, Larry, is they need leadership. They need warrior leadership, and they need to be directed with a great vision and a great set of tasks, and the American people will follow. Because one of the things that the American people will not give up, and what is in our DNA, your DNA and my DNA, is freedom. And that idea of freedom will not go away easily one bit. And this sort of this globalist crowd, this new world order, all of this new world order, World Economic Forum, globalist elite, garbage that we hear about every day. And I've become too familiar with it. They are not going to overcome the DNA of the United States. And that DNA is all about faith, freedom, family, and it's about the strength of who we are as Americans. And that's what this country is all about. The Republican Party now has to embrace that and has to grab hold of it. And whoever the nominee is, because I know different people are going to get involved. I'm even here, and you might even get involved. But all these different people, that are getting involved in the race, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. I'm a big fan of Donald Trump. I'm actually going to see him tomorrow. But it doesn't matter. This is not about Mike Flynn. It's not about Larry Elder. It's not about Donald Trump. It is about the future of America. It's about the future of our Constitution, and it's about the future of our children. And that's what we have to stand firm on, and we have to believe in that, and we have to look at each other right and left shoulder and look at because they want to pit a neighbor against neighbor and family member against family member. That's not who our adversaries are. Our adversary is communism. It's the rise of communism in this country, and I'm not kidding about that. And if anybody wants to get into a debate about that with me, be my guest.
General, since Biden has been in office, we've had 5 million illegal aliens entering our interior. They're still there. We don't know who they are. Some of them have been on our terror watch list. Those are the ones that we caught. I believe, here's the game, that by doing this, by undoing all the Trump policies on the border that gave us the most secure border we ever had, there'll be enough pressure that Republicans will cave and will grant massive amnesty in exchange for the reinstitution of the Trump border policies. I believe that's their end game.
Yeah. So a couple of things. First of all, we're looking at 160 countries where people are coming from. I was just sent, I have a great friend who was an investigative journalist, and he's been working down in the Darien Gap of Panama. And he's been sending me videos of military-age men, mostly from China. And this is over the last couple of months. So over the last 3 months from China. Okay, so what, and you say to yourself, what the heck is going on? So we have not just people from Mexico or El Salvador or Colombia or Venezuela or Haiti. We have people from 160 countries coming into this country. And you say to yourself, where are they going? And you said, you used the number 5 million. Honestly, Larry, we really don't know. We really don't have a clue what the real number is. We base it on equations that the Department of Homeland Security uses. I mean, we could have 10 million that came in the last 2 years because the border is wide open. The Border Patrol and the federal agents that are responsible for protecting our border, as well as local law enforcement, their hands are tied. It is so egregious, the behavior of Mayorkas, the Department of Homeland Security secretary, that he is allowing, and frankly, even goes all the way up to the White House. So, where are these military-age men going? What are they doing in this country? Despite the rise of fentanyl abuse, the rise of crime, I actually think that there's a more devious element going on here, and I'm afraid that and I hope that I'm totally wrong, but I'm afraid that there is some other nefarious aspect of some of these military-age men that is being used, and we're going to see some of that over the next couple of years. You can't sit. No American can sit there and say, "Oh yeah, this is okay." I mean, what communism wants, and actually what Marx talked about. So in the Marx manifesto, what he talked about was everybody should embrace the downtrodden. Right? That's if you read Marx and you understand Marx. Marx talked about embracing the downtrodden, like there's, St. Thomas More is the one that really he coined the term utopia. There's no such thing. When you embrace the downtrodden in a country like our country, where we base it on the rule of law, it's not a matter of not caring for one's fellow man. It's actually saying to yourself, are we going to allow in, and I think the number is higher than 5 million, but let's just say 5 million in the last 2 years alone. If we're going to let in 5 million more people, I mean, that's 5 times the number of people in the state of Montana, 5 times the number of the people in the state of Rhode Island, 5 times the number of the people in Delaware, 5 times the number of the people in Nebraska. I mean, this is a gigantic number of illegals in our country that are destroying the fabric of what I talked about earlier, Larry, which is the true idea of freedom in a society that protects the rule of law. We are becoming rapidly, sadly, tragically, a lawless society, and it's because people come into this country, they don't assimilate. We have abused the idea of even saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, Larry, I could go on and on. I so appreciate what you're doing and what your voice carries, because what was the word? What was the phrase that they called you again? We talked about it.
The black face of white supremacy.
The black face of white. I mean, and I'm like the white racist, ultra right Christian nationalist. I mean, I'm an Irish Catholic kid from a family of 9 brothers and sisters. My father was a sergeant in the army in World War II in Korea. And I know what sacrifice is for my own 3.5 decades in the military, serving 5 years in combat, and watching watching the most egregious type of enemies that our nation has ever faced. And I look at all this and I say, and so I guess what I'm telling you, and you know this, I'll use the phrase "not on my watch," because I know you have a lot of veterans that watch you. You have a lot of great people that watch you on this show. Not on our watch are we going to allow this country to fall to the prey of some type of American form of communism. That's what they want, Larry, and they're trying very, very hard to do it. And they're using Uncle Joe in the White House to do it. And that's a sad state of things.
General, a couple more topics in our remaining few minutes. I want to talk about the Chinese spy balloon that was shot down and the other flying objects that had been shot down, and this assertion by Biden that there were balloons during the Trump administration, and apparently, if that's true, Trump was unaware of it. Your comments on any of that?
Yeah. So first of all, there's 100 million people on TikTok, okay, which is a Chinese social application. So, why would they need to fly balloons over this country to collect intelligence on certain things or to geo map parts of our military industrial complex, particularly our missile sites? So they don't really need that. I actually think that a lot of this was a distraction. The fact that this administration is now blaming it on Trump or saying that, well, they flew over during Trump, even if they did, too bad. So what? So for your audience, and I don't think I've said this anywhere else, but for your audience, NORAD, which is our command that's supposed to take care of North America, it is an alignment. It's U.S. controlled, U.S. led, but it's an alignment between Canada, and it does have it has Mexico as part of it because it's part of North America. It has never had to shoot anything in its history, ever. Never had to shoot anything down. This balloon that was over Lake Huron the other day, they missed. One of the missiles missed. So if I'm in China and I'm watching all this, which I am doing, I'm going to be. It's like a reconnaissance probe of an enemy line. I'm testing. I'm checking. I'm looking for weaknesses, and then once I find that weakness, I'm going to exploit it. And so what they're really doing, I think, one among a few things, they're really testing our rules of engagement. And our rules of engagement are always classified. Talk about classified documents, right? Our rules of engagement are always classified. So our rules of engagement are being tested. They were tested. And I actually think that we failed. I think that the commander of NORAD failed. Definitely the White House in its decision-making failed. And it showed even the commander of NORAD. I feel bad for him because he's a great guy. He's a 4-star. He said that he talked about our rules of engagement. He was not able to operate within the rules of engagement that he had because he wasn't exactly sure what he was facing. Imagine in a split-second decision where you have missiles, nuclear missiles inbound. You have jets inbound from an adversarial nation, and you have to make a split-second decision. Now you're looking at a balloon that's just sort of floating along, and you're having a tough time making a decision. I mean, what the hell is going on, Larry? So, personally, big picture, distraction. And what I said earlier, or what I said the other day, was that don't get distracted by the shiny object. Pay attention to the reality of what it is that we are facing. And we're facing a rising China. They are the principal adversary. And don't kid yourself for 1 second. I don't want your audience to think for 1 second they are not. And we also have this massive, massive distraction that could lead us into a nuclear conflict in Eastern Europe when we talk about Ukraine. And the last thing I'll say on this topic is next week is the Munich Security Conference. Kamala Harris is going to lead the largest delegation in the history of the United States of America to the Munich Security Conference, Larry. And she couldn't even tell you where half the countries are in Europe. Never mind Ukraine. And she's going to lead the largest delegation, and we're going to talk about security conditions in Europe. And that is with Kamala leading it, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble.
General, Democrats and much of the media refer to what happened on January 6, 2021 as, quote unquote, an insurrection. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was a total setup. And I feel so bad for many of the people that have been convicted and and I know what it's like to be under the gun of the pressure of the Department of Justice, or injustice, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Department of Justice has a 95% conviction rate. Why? Because they withhold evidence all the time. And I am very, very aware of many of the cases where they have withheld evidence, and there's some exposure that's going to come out in some upcoming cases. But I think the whole thing was a setup. How does Nancy Pelosi have her daughter and son-in-law ready to do a documentary the day before, they're interviewing people. Okay, they're interviewing people the day before, and then they're ready to interview Nancy down in the bowels of the Capitol. Something doesn't pass the smell test, right? Doesn't pass the smell test. So that's just one example. Where is, and I'll finish with this, Larry, and I'm sorry. Where is the investigation of the bomb that was at the Democratic National Committee party headquarters? Where's the investigation of that? They haven't even found anybody that did that, but yet they're going to tell us that there was a bomb planted. What is the FBI doing about it? And why hasn't that person been brought in? There's cameras everywhere, right? We have 14,000 cameras. So to me, it was a total setup. And that's why we need to have a leader back in the White House that's going to look at the whole thing. And frankly, I wish the House of Representatives would bring this in as one of the first investigations that they do. And I know Jim Jordan is split between the House Weaponization Committee and the House Judiciary Committee. And I hope he's not overtasked right now, because the January 6th must be looked into legitimately. The Unselect Committee was not a legitimate committee.
Finally, General Flynn, I need 60 seconds from you on your predictions about 2024.
2024, I do predict that Donald Trump is going to win the nomination for the primary for the Republican Party. There's no doubt in my mind at all. I mean, all the other people that will get in there, that's fine, and they'll have their say, they'll have their positions, and I appreciate that. This is the way our country should work. But I do think that Donald Trump is going to win the nomination. To win the 2024 election is a different story. If we have the same situation in 2024 that we had in 2020 and 2022, there is no electoral college path for a Republican president. And I'll finish with this. There is a very senior member of the World Economic Forum, very senior member, that stated recently that the 2024 presidential election for the United States of America will be the last presidential election that the United States has. And it's not me saying it. It's a very senior member. I'll let people go and dig that up. We are in trouble, Larry, if we don't take control of the local level. That's where we win the day. That's what our founders created. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness at the local level. Don't worry about Washington, D.C. You take care of your community and your county, and we'll win the day.
General Michael Flynn, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service.
God bless you, Larry, and thank you to your audience, too. Thank you.
God bless you. I know you enjoy the show, so hit that like button. And be sure to subscribe to the show. We're trying to get our subscriptions up. And go down a little bit, and you can see where you can join our mailing list, because believe it or not, from time to time, YouTube apparently handles our YouTube videos with caution. I don't know what their issue is. But if you want to make sure you see all of our vids, you got to get on our mailing list. And you see a little round button that says donate? Throw a little something in the tip jar. Keep these shows coming. Remember, LarryWithEpoch.com, LarryWithEpoch.com. Some people say epoch, some people say epoch. As long as you spell my name right, LarryWithEpoch.com. I'm Larry Elder. This has been the Larry Elder Show for Epoch Times. We've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.